it might have been around January 15th, but several years later. And our phones light up, and it was one of those 9/11 moments where we saw pictures of our store in Jakarta, Indonesia, with the headline, Starbucks targeted by ISIS. And smoke, billowing out of one of our stores, the windows shot. I mean, our store had literally been like just decimated, our flagship store in Jakarta. And so we ultimately, Howard went on stage and did give a speech, and then we kind of rehuddled as a group. And so we aviated. We kind of figured out we stabilized the situation. We didn't do a knee-jerk reaction. We, initially Howard just instinctively being the courageous leader that he wanted to get on his plane and fly down to Jakarta and be there. Which when your brand is under attack, and the suggestion, which ended up being incorrect, which is another crisis rule, that usually the first information is wrong because it was not Starbucks that was under attack. But you don't fly, you don't fly your CEO right into the heart of the battle when when there's basically a war going on with ISIS in Jakarta. So, but we stabilized the situation, right? We followed the aviate rule. So we aviated and we figured out, okay, let's just kind of get all the information, talk to our folks on the ground in Indonesia, figure out what our plan is. And so then we ultimately decided that I would parachute into Jakarta. So we flight in behind. I get on a commercial flight fly into Jakarta, and that I would be the one that would kind of sort out I'd be the one kind of navigating and figuring out what to do. So we're now in the navigation phase. So I parachuted.
That's scary.
Yeah, and so I get there, and by this point, by the time I get there, the Army had stabilized the situation. They either killed or arrested the terrorists who had done this horrible attack on our store and other. It was basically ended up turning out there was it was a booby trap to lure the Army in, and then ISIS was their main target was the Army and the police, and so they had snipers that were taking out the police as they came to kind of rescue people at Starbucks. And so, long story short, we that
oh my God.
Once I got on the ground there, I worked with the chief of police, our local leadership there, and so we navigated. We figured, okay, where are we going to go from here? What are we going to do now? And we figured out our message, how we're going to recalibrate things, and most importantly, how we're going to care for our customers and our employees, our partners, as we call them, that were impacted by this situation. And one of the key things we decided to do was shut down all of our stores across the entire country. We flew in all of those, drove in all of the partners or employees from all these other stores into Jakarta, which is where this attack had happened. And we ultimately rented out a ballroom. So Howard, we ultimately decided as we went through this navigation phase that Howard would fly in under the cloak of darkness in the middle of the night
to meet
all of our employees, because that's the kind of courageous leader that he is. And he flew in, and we had this ballroom meeting with 2,000 of our employees from across the country. Gave this heartwarming, I wouldn't even call it a speech, just this conversation with all of these employees that had been, impacted. And he'd also gone to the hospital to visit some of the employees and customers that had been impacted. But that's where the communication came in, right? So we aviated that, just getting back to the framework, how it worked. We aviated in India, we stabilized the situation, figured out what we were going to do. We got to India, or got to Jakarta. I got there, worked with the police, collaborated with them to figure out, okay, how we're going to navigate and what are the next steps and shoes to fall and all this kind of stuff. And then finally we communicated. We brought together all of our employees and did this mega town hall with all of our employees.